Right now, I'd like to invite Basil Kannangara, founder of Bring Bridges, for his creative showcase.
Thank you so much, yeah?
Yes, that's right.
Oh, can I have the clicker for the... thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. This past day, all the speakers, all the panels have been so good. I have to apologize beforehand because it's made me, all of your talks have made me want to change what I'm going to say. So please pardon me if the slides do not say exactly what I am saying. I'm going to wing it a little bit. So my name is Basil, and together with my younger sister, Beverly, over there, we run a small social enterprise in Singapore called Being Bridges. We basically support the work of dialogue. What we do is we do interfaith dialogue a little bit differently, but something else. But before I share that something else, I'll share a little story that happened in my interfaith training. I have the pleasure of knowing Father Francis Clooney, who is a Jesuit priest teaching Hinduism at Harvard Divinity School. And he shares this experience of meeting Pope Francis within the first few months, together with other professors of interreligious dialogue. And they were not sure what Pope Francis was going to say. What Pope Francis shared was that interreligious dialogue is really good, and the Pope was going to support this. But the Pope challenged them, asking, what can interfaith dialogue do for the poor? What can interfaith dialogue do for the world? He shared that with a lot of emotions. When I learned this from him, I was in tears myself because I was trying to specialize in this topic. I was using it as a cause. But now I realize in learning interfaith dialogue, it could be used as a tool. So that's why we created Being Bridges. Basically, the whole idea here is to use interfaith as a tool and to even use to do interfaith dialogue differently, to do the dialogue of diversity differently. Oh, good, my slides are in front of me, sorry. So what we do, Being Bridges, it's a Singapore-grown social enterprise. We serve corporate and organic communities. We bridge social sustainability. I call this the missing S in ESG, right? Many people forget. People remember the environment, the government, but not the social part of ESG. And that's the part we focus on with diversity, dialogue, and a little bit of discrimination. I've already mentioned intercultural, interracial, and interfaith dialogue, but recently I've also realized that what we were doing was a communion-driven economy. We are moving towards a communion-driven economy by doing this form of harmony. Thank you, Anouk. Now, what do? We co-create social impact tools for transformative conversations around culture, religion, and ethnicity. By tools, I mean products and programs, right? We create concrete, tangible things, but we also design workshops, trainings, in order to, in my words, basically deal with the challenge of love in the world. So again, we are doing dialogue differently. One, the typical way of doing dialogue is we have, an audience like this. We have experts on stage, a professor, a priest, a cardinal, a religious leader. They're all talking, and the rest of us listen and we clap our hands, right? But we wanted to do diversity from the diverse, getting the people on the ground to be sharing their diversity because they are the real specialists. They live it every day. Second thing, instead of just conducting the events, we wanted to build tools so that other people could conduct these events. Children can buy our products, bring it to their church youth group, their mosque group, their community center, their school. Adults can bring it to their HR department, and they could conduct these interfaith dialogues themselves, right? We had to make it easy. And secondly, this is our way of using interfaith dialogue, leveraging it as an instrument to benefit the rest of the world. Three of the things that we have created, I'll just touch on two to save some time. Diversity by Default is a cross-sector conversational card game. I was not going to go into how we created it, but now I've decided to do so because of some of your sharings. The reason it's cross-sector was because we discovered that different sectors of diversity were not communicating with each other. right? We've got interreligious dialogue, not really talking with intergenerational dialogue. We've got intercultural dialogue people, not really talking with the disabilities sector, right? All of these were different forms of diversity. Can we get the conversations together? So that was one thing we did. A card game where we researched for 2 years, we tweaked, we had focus groups, we had comments, we had people to just observe the emotions on the faces of our focus group participants to notice which questions were good, which were not good. Every question has a trajectory and evolution that we traced for 2 years, so we know how we tweaked each question to make them as effective for conversations as possible. People only want to talk about faith, we have the cards for that, you follow a certain color. People want to mix faith and disability, we mix certain colors together and organizations engage us with that. The second one, being guests, is virtual reality tours of houses of worship. We discovered that visiting another person's house of worship, not my religion, a different religion, was really good for building familiarity, right? It works. The problem was nobody was really visiting another house of worship. It's really difficult to organize the buses, the transportation, telling people what clothes to wear, even the catering halfway through, right? So instead of bringing people to the mosque and the synagogue, we decided to bring the synagogue, the church, and the temples to people where they were. So we basically film in 360-degree videos, so you can look at the ceiling, you can turn around and look behind you of what's inside a synagogue or a Buddhist temple, and we bring that to community centers. Or we even bring the mosque into the synagogue. We bring the synagogue into the Catholic Church, right? A very different way of doing dialogue, and it's very helpful in countries where there are legal restrictions preventing people from one religion visiting the house of another religion. So, and that's something we discovered along the way. So, how do we serve? Again, you already know this, diversity, dialogue, discrimination. We engage with the corporate sector, we engage with mosques and churches and temples, we engage with government agencies, we engage with visiting diplomats visiting our country, right? The typical corporate labels seem to be ESG, DEI, CSR, values alignment. I'll skip these parts here. I think it's obvious. Many people have talked about this. Conversations, community building, we're very good at conceptualization. Again, programs and products, but we also consult on other projects organized for interfaith dialogue because of what we've built up ourselves. Oops. This was something interesting that I wanted to share. Basically, our president of Singapore picked up on what I was doing, and she gave a speech announcing our card game to the rest of the world, where she mentioned these phrases: dispel misperceptions, build bonds, and create trust. She was correct, but we did not fully realize that that was what we were doing. So I'll show you a little bit about this card game so that you get a sense, right? Questions on a card. The video's not playing, so never mind, we'll skip that. Questions on paper. It's very simple, it's nothing fancy, but because it's written there, it provides scaffolding for dialogue where you do not have to train facilitators to do this, right? And questions are already made, there's a flow, there are templates, right? And so it helps the dialogue move more smoothly. And we even cater to really sensitive topics, and we've experimented on how to decrease the levels of sensitivity, and I'll show you at the very end of my slides. So we discovered that from those experiences of playing the card games and conducting the virtual reality tours, that it was the stories that were moving people, that were showing people. We do this in primary schools, right, grade schools, where little boys and girls, after viewing what happens inside a synagogue, right, suddenly go up to a Jewish student or to a Jewish student, or someone who's Buddhist goes up to a Catholic student saying, "Oh, you have a holy book in your religion? Yeah, we've got something like that too." And these little children start sharing. So that's one thing. We noticed that it's the stories that we were using. The card game drew out stories, but we were also shifting the stories in society. The very next part, I was going to go into a bit of the gift economy, today's topic for this panel, and creative social impact. But I've decided to skip some of these slides just to say that I'm going to rely on three concepts that I've learned. One, from a French philosopher named Jean-Luc Marion, who wrote this book titled Being Given. It's the sense that we are being given to others, and others are being given to us as well. Secondly, St. Ignatius of Loyola, whom I base a lot of my ideas on, who mentioned this term, all is gift. So then we put the two together, we realize even being is gift in itself. And thirdly, this is a French rabbinical scholar, Emmanuel Levinas, who had this idea that our being, our essence, was actually rooted in the other person. So we have to sort of figure out, how does the being of that other person, their essence, come out at us? And my bet is that it's about the stories, and the stories basically give us meaning. So I'm going to skip some of these things, but I'm going to use this as my closing slide, right? You know how money is the currency with which value is exchanged? I'm going to propose that story might just be the currency with which meaning is exchanged, our essence as human beings. So for the gift economy and creative social impact, I'm proposing that maybe it's this exchange of essence, that all this, the gift economy, might just be based on who we are essentially as human beings already. That being is shifted through meaning, and that social impact, by the way, the shifting of being, but meaning is gifted through story. So for existence to shift, meaning has to spread. And for meaning to spread, stories have to be shared. The very last thing I was going to do, may I have 1 minute just to check? Okay, never mind then. Right? So I'm going to end on this slide, right? I was going to allow you guys a chance to share with your partners next to you, right? One of our favorite cards whenever we play this with corporate sector or with religious houses of worship, it's called Roots and Branches. We ask this question: what do you know about your great-grandparents? How far back can you trace your family history? Every time people share this story, and we've had imams sharing their answer to this, to brand new diplomats from Southeast Asia visiting Singapore for the first time and have never stepped into a mosque in their lives. And all of a sudden they know the life story and the grandparents' story of this particular imam. But notice how this question does not mention religion, race, ethnicity, culture, nationality. It was one of these ways that we discovered, hey, how can we make this less intimidating for people? Again, we go back to their essence, their roots, their ancestries. We go through all sorts of various means to try to make the dialogue more accessible for everyone else. So again, thank you very much. We have samples of the cards, myself and Beverly, and even the VR, if any of you would like to try after this. Thank you.